All right, everybody. How are we all doing today? Good. Thumbs up from some of the videos we got here. All right. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Amanda Ross. I'm the Director of Assessment for NYSOA, and this is a series we're going to be running prior to the start of the season. I think you all got the I know you all got the save the date email. We have another one of these coming up in May. We're going to have a guest speaker on that one. It's going to be Abby Okinawu. I'm butchering his last name. He'll help me on that one when he gets here. And he's talking about referee positioning, and we're working on one in June that Joe Fletcher is going to co-teach on how to coach ARs. And so just to give you an idea of the goal behind this, what we're trying to do here is I know NYSOA puts on a ton of programs, as is the NCAA, about things like how to identify spot and how to identify dog zone, how to identify all these different types of things. What we're talking about here is how us as coaches should be thinking about these things, approaching this, helping the referees. So a little bit different from most of the webinars that you're going to. So if you have any suggestions on any topics, for example, so like I said, the next topic is how to coach referee positioning. What are some of the red flags? How do we teach referees to adjust their positioning? In June, we're going to be doing how to coach assistant referees. So not offside, but all of the movement, the teamwork, how to recognize when to get involved, those types of things that are much more specific for us as coaches, referee assessors, coaches, training officials, than it is for referees, just recognizing these different things. But this first one, I know that we totally changed the system. I've been getting some feedback about how this is working. Several of you have been sending me assessments to take a look at, give you an idea. It's a new system. I wanted to add a different idea I wanted to add one more to this series with regards to how to think about scoring and some of these things with this new system, since it is new and a lot of us are adjusting. So you are all welcome. This is meant to be interactive. I have some situations, examples. I want people talking. I think many of you know I'm a college professor, so I can confirm that me talking for an hour is super boring. My students tell me that all the time. No, not really. So that's why we want some interaction. So please keep yourself muted when you're not talking, but when I do ask, when we do go through this, please do hop on, take yourself off mute, put your video on if you're comfortable with that, so that way there's a little bit of a name face, so I can actually see some of these people that have been sending me emails and get an idea of who I'm talking to. Also, if you could please in the chat put in a little bit of a roll call, so saying who you are, so that way some people, I know it's set up like Galaxy Tab S6, I don't know who you are, so I can't call on you or get you to participate, so that way we know who we're talking to. Adriana will help with that as well. She's on this, we're viewing her screen right now. So if you guys can just write that into the chat so she can make that adjustment and make sure that we're keeping, none of these are mandatory, but so we know who's attending and kind of keep tabs on all of that. So let's just jump right into it. So what we're going to do, like I said, today is walk through some different situations and think about how we want to score this in terms of this new system and how we should be factoring this into the referee's decision. So if we look at the first situation we've got on this, Adriana, next slide. Yes. So how do we score if? So in this situation, we have a player who is injured. That player receives treatment on the field, and there are no sanctions issued on the play. I also want to clarify this is not a head injury or anything like that. Play is restarted with the player who received treatment still on the field, and the ball goes out for a throw-in. How is the score of the referee affected? So can I get someone to raise their hand to give me an idea of what their thoughts are? So remember, under the new system, we have two parts of the score. We have this feel score, this idea of like, what's that gut instinct? Was it a good game, not a good game? What were the problems, anything like that? And then we also have these CMIs, which are these key big mess ups that we really want to focus on. We really want to make sure that we're deducting for in terms of recognizing this is a problem, but we also have these two different scores. So you can give two different scores. So in this situation, let's get some participation. Let's see if anyone wants to raise their hand and be the first to talk with regards to how they think they should score this. Okay, so Steve Buchal, can you take yourself off mute and give me your thoughts on this?
Okay, so well, this is again a sort of a technical violation. it's not
Mhm.
really affecting the game other than not allowing the affected player should have been off for, you know, however long it takes for him to be waved back onto the field. So
Mhm.
I would not mark the referee off unless this was something he consistently did.
Mhm.
But it's just something to remind him that, you know, he's supposed to come off, and you can always wave him right back on at a convenient moment. So this seems very just sort of a minor
Mhm.
pick.
Okay. Other individuals, other thoughts? Anyone agree, disagree with Steve? Thank you, Steve.
It is a minor thing, but there should be some minor points taken off. I'm not that familiar with this whole new system, but some points have to be taken off on that. Minimal though.
Right. So first of all, does anyone think that this should be something that's a CMI? So one of these major 3-point deductions can't get above a 0.3 deductions, can't give above a 7.9. Does anyone think that is the case? Raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, good. So when we're thinking about this, this is a relatively minor thing. It's not a huge deal, but it's something we can't ignore. So if you remember in the new scoring system, we've got all those different colors, different areas. Probably don't want to knock down an entire category, but maybe in one of those areas, instead of it being the 8.4 standard, we're knocking down a little bit in terms of this is something to think about. This is an area to improve. But if this happens one time, this is very much a coaching point. And we don't want to necessarily, if this is the only mistake in a game, we don't want to deduct somebody and have them at a lower score. But we do want to make sure that it's recognized on that scoring sheet that there was a little bit of a difference there. Does this make sense? Any other questions, comments on this? All right, so good. Adriana, if you want to show the official answer. So this should be coming in when we're thinking about these different ways to score. This is that field score we talk about. This is not a CMI. But let's move on to the next situation and change this a little bit. So we have the same situation. Players injured, receive treatments on the field, no sanctions. Players restarted with the player who received treatment still on the field. The player who received treatment scores a goal on the ensuing free kick. Either the individual takes the free kick and scores right off of it, or the free kick is taken and that individual heads it right in. In this situation, how is the score of the referee affected? What do we think in this situation? Does someone want to raise their hand to give an initial thought? Or someone take themselves off mute or give thoughts on this situation. How should the score of the referee be affected in this situation?
Amanda, this is Tom. To me, that's a critical match incident. Anytime you
Why
have.
is this a critical match incident?
Why is it such? Well,
Why do you think so?
The player should not have been on the field to start with at that point. And when it happened, and if he scores directly off of a play before he's left the field to come back on, that becomes a critical match incident, a bad situation for the referee, I think.
Other reactions to this. Larry Morgan, I see your hand is up. What do you think?
So it's a critical match incident now because of misapplication of the law.
Rules of the game. This is a misapplication of the rules. What do you think could happen as a result of this mistake? What could the teams possibly do?
Well, this would be grounds for a protest.
This could be a protest. And so if a referee mistake results in the game being a protestable offense, on the previous situation, the losing team could protest it, but nothing's going to come of. Like I highly doubt anything would ever come of it. But something like this, where the player who receives treatment on the field, who should be leaving, does not, and scores a goal immediately. This is something that if a protest was issued to the to NYSOA or the NCAA or the conference, whoever's handling in this situation, it's highly likely that the team's going to win. So that's why in this situation, we need to treat this as a CMI. So Adriana, if you want to click on the answer, click through the next one. Thank you. So this should be treated as an incorrect CMI. This should be the maximum score they can get, that the individual can get, is a 7.9. We do have the adjusted, unadjusted scores, of course, because this has a direct result on the match. And in particular, this makes it a protestable offense. So that's why we want to handle this. Good.
Can I jump in with
So
a question?
go ahead. Question.
Yes. Now, how about, obviously this is for the referee. How about the rest of the team that didn't correct the referee from making this mistake?
Very good point. I'm going to put that to the group. What do people think with regards to the assistant referee or the fourth official? How should their scores be affected? Should their scores be affected? What do people think of that? Reactions to that?
I think this should be affected. It's a team effort. And if they're paying attention, they could have had stopped this situation. If they would have been alert, they could have alerted him. Particularly, we have means to communicate that information out there.
Especially with the mics that we have microphones now. Okay. So yes, definitely they should bear some of the responsibility.
So good. I think overall, when we're thinking about the rest of the crew, it's going to be that's something where in many ways the discussion, that debrief, is going to be very, very important. The crew is responsible for this, but there could be, we don't know exactly what's going on with regards to the treatment. We don't know the other situations going on. So it is a crew decision. It is highly unlikely, in my opinion, that just the referee is the only one getting docked. But it is possible, for example, if there's a situation with the benches that's going on because this player's receiving treatment and everything, maybe the fourth official, maybe one of the assistant referees or the fourth official is dealing with a coach. Well, the fourth official should know a trainer went on because the fourth official lets the trainer on. But you can imagine a situation. So it's really important. Don't let them off the hook, but don't necessarily crucify. This is where we really kind of need that gut instinct of, did this person actually know? And then, of course, we also have a situation where what if somebody did know and told the referee, and the referee did not take that information? What should we do in that situation? So suppose one of the assistant referees knew and said to the referee, the player's on the field, a trainer went out, you need to get the player off the field. What should we do in that situation for that assistant referee?
He saved himself.
So he saved himself. So if somebody gives the referee the information and the referee doesn't take it for whatever reason, and that person was correct, that person, when we're talking about that assistant referee's field score, that number should be going up.
Right.
That person tried. So before we immediately say we're docking the whole team an incorrect CMI, we need to have that debrief and we need to have that discussion to kind of see what happened actually on the field. Any other questions on that? But if somebody did know and somebody did give that information, that person should be their score should be getting bumped up for assisting the referee, even if the information wasn't taken. All right, good. So next situation, next thought. So a foul is committed outside the penalty area by a defender. The ball goes to an attacker who shoots and scores, and we all know this situation where the referee is blowing the whistle as the shot is taken. And as the referee blows the whistle, ball's out in the net. Game is restarted with a free kick. How is the score of the referee affected? Let's get some different people. Who wants to jump in that hasn't spoken yet before I have to start calling on people?
Well, I think the referee needs to be noted that in the debrief, and that does affect his score somewhat because now he has affected the game.
So good, Jonathan. So should this be a CMI deduction, or should this be the field score, that base kind of general performance? Which one do you think it should be, and why?
Probably the field score, because it wasn't an action. It was an action by the referee and not by the players themselves. The referee did not recognize that the opportunity to score a goal was there.
Okay. All right. I like the thought process. Anybody else have a different thought process on this? Or a different opinion on this?
I say it's a critical match situation. You've just taken away a goal. And we know in soccer, there's not many goals scored.
Okay. So Joe disagrees. Who does somebody else want to jump in and break the tie one way or the other? Any thoughts? There's lots of thoughts, and I hope.
Okay, this is Steve again.
Mhm.
When the shot was taken, the referee had no way to know that the ball was going in the goal. Yes, he should have held up the whistle, but if the ball goes 10 feet over the crossbar and he gives him the free kick, nobody's going to complain. So it is a feel correction, but it's a big feel correction.
Right. So what Steve is saying is really good. I'm actually going to just cut it at that because that was so good, and kind of to make sure we get the point of this conversation, the way to think about this. It wasn't guaranteed that that player was going to score when he took that shot. Like Steve said, he could have, blasted it over the goal. We see that happen all the time too. It is a very serious error because you did take away a goal, but we've all been there. It's happened with this. And we don't want to treat different situations differently. So we don't want to treat the referee that has the situation occur. So Adriana, if you want to click on this, this is going to come up in the field score in terms of the answer, because we don't want to treat a referee differently who, when the shot is taken, but makes this mistake and a goal is scored, from a referee who makes this mistake and a goal is not scored. We want to treat those two the same because it's the same error. It's not one referee's fault that a goal was scored and another referee's fault that a goal wasn't scored. So we want to make sure we're treating this the same in terms of this. So it's sort of like in the training we had with John Nielsen, when we had the situation where the referee gave an incorrect free kick and it just happened that the team scored off of it. We don't want to punish that error. We don't want to punish that error because we don't know what's going to happen next. So this is a situation where this should be affecting the field score of the referee, because and it should be, like Steve said, this should be a fairly serious deduction in the sense of it did have a big impact on the game. So if an 8.4 is our baseline, this individual is probably starting like an 8.2, 8.3, depending on other factors in the game. So you should be seriously thinking of knocking down the whole score for a mistake like this, because it is a big one and it does have this, but this isn't a CMI. We don't want to be treating different situations. We don't want to be treating the same situation differently just based on the outcome of the match. The outcome of the players. Does this make sense what I'm saying here, sort of? I'm spinning in circles at times.
It makes sense, but what do you think about how is the coach going to react when he thinks that a goal has been taken away?
The coach is not going to react well at all.
Right. So doesn't that, the whole temperature of the game now rise because of that?
Absolutely. I would anticipate the temperature of the match would rise because of this referee's, because of what this referee did, because of this referee's decision. But that's not something, if we think it's not one of these critical match errors though. We all have screwed up and blown the whistle too fast and taken away an advantage. This one, I mean, it's highly likely a coach is going to go crazy if we screw up if we make a similar if we make a similar mistake where it's going to a player in space and he thinks his team's on a breakaway and he's going to score on that. So we can't let that be the reason that we do something or don't do this in terms of making it a CMI or not. But it 100% affects the field score. Depending on how upset, maybe that's what determines if it's an 8.3 or an 8.2 or maybe even an 8.1, honestly, depending on how much the game may fall apart as a result of this. Alan, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, you also have to realize this is a split-second decision. And as soon as the whistle goes, you have to also read what the defensive players have done. Did they automatically relax and therefore the ball went in the net? Or did they were they still into the game, so to speak, and reacting to the shot itself? I mean, if they automatically relax, you can't take as much away from the referee for blowing the whistle, because you don't know the ball was going to go in the goal or not when the defense takes that relaxation type setting from hearing the whistle
That's
go.
a good point as well. We don't know how the referee impacted the defense, and maybe that's why a goal was scored. So that's why we still is going to cause everybody to go crazy. But again, this isn't a CMI. Tim.
Hey guys, could we also maybe look at it from the standpoint to say the referee's not wrong in calling the foul? We'd like to see more out of him, but he's not wrong by calling the foul.
Yeah, that's another way you can think about this in terms of whether it's a CMI or not. Is that how you're thinking about this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you could think about it that way. That is a different way to think about it for sure. But yeah, he's not wrong. There is just a very major coaching point specifically with regards to the wait and see application of advantage, these other principles that are very important to the game.
Absolutely. I agree with that there is more to it, but from saying it's not a critical match, we can simply say he's not wrong in his decision.
Yeah,
We need to wait a second longer and make a different decision, but the initial decision would not be wrong if it's a correct foul.
Mhm. Yeah. No, good point. Chris Bailey.
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. I think the other thing that we need to think about is how does that referee handle that? In other words, if they come in on it real quickly and make the attempt to show that they blew the whistle quickly because they were afraid something else was going to happen, or you have a post-game discussion with them that they said, you know, I was trying to get there to make sure that nothing happened. Yeah, the ball went in the goal. So I think, and if the temperature rises, they do a great job of managing that temperature rising, and you see that they've got good management skills and they can recover from it. I think that gives us the differences in how we can score at that point from a feel good, because it's not necessarily a CMI or as a feel good. Is that not correct?
Yeah, no, and what you're saying, Chris, is also very true as well. Is from this incident, maybe we're thinking knocked down to like an 8.3, but then after this, like you said, they had good logic. They did a really awesome job of calming the coaches, calming everything, calming this. Maybe they get themselves back up. So we are viewing it as this whole thing. It is definitely a coaching point. It's definitely in that area. You need to dock it a little bit, at least in that area, to acknowledge that this is not okay. But if that referee then can correct the error and actually ends up with both coaches being as happy as they're going to be, we need to consider that and factor that in as well. All right, so I'm going to cut off the discussion there because we got a bunch of situations. So let's move on to the next one, Adriana. So again, same situation, but now we're going to restart the game with a kickoff. What should we do in this situation? How is the score of the referee affected in this situation? So exact same situation as before, but instead of restarting with the free kick, we restart with a kickoff. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet want to share, take themselves off mute and share an opinion.
Amanda?
And you're already off mute, so I'm just, oh wait, no, Mr. Jaspy, Art Jaspy came off. What do you think, Mr. Jaspy?
Thanks, Amanda. Well, I think he blew the whistle and the ball was dead. And I think it's a critical error if he allows the goal and he starts with a kickoff. I think it's a critical error because my thought is he blew the whistle, the ball's dead, but the ball continues for a goal. He starts with a kickoff. Can't allow the goal. He can't allow the goal. And I think it's a critical error if he allows the goal.
Absolutely, completely agree. So Mr. Jaspy has this right. If the referee allows the goal, if the coaches protest this, is there a good chance they're going to win? Yeah. The play was dead as soon as the referee blew the whistle. So if the referee, and we've seen this happen before, we saw it in the Confederations Cup a couple years ago, right? Where the referee made this error, was going to give a penalty kick and ended up scoring. At that point in time, the referee, unless this is a critical match incident, the exception being, well, no, the referee would know that that's the case. So if we look at this in terms of the answer, Adriana, This is something that should be this is a incorrect CMI, as this has a direct impact on the match. And a good way to think about these errors when we're talking about this is, if a team protests that error, are they going to win? Like, do they stand a good chance at winning? And if this happens, there's a very good chance that that team, if they protest it, they're going to win. So that's why we have this as an incorrect CMI. So, all right, good. Next situation, please. So a referee gives an incorrect second caution and shows a red card. Notice it's an incorrect, a clear incorrect second caution. Reason doesn't matter. It's incorrect. All we're saying in this situation. The assistant referee calls the other referee and informs him of the error prior to play restarting. The referee corrects the call and the player is not sent off. How is the score of the referee affected in this situation? All right. I don't know the name. We have an individual raising your hand. What's your name?
Sorry, Amanda. It's Joe Della Penna.
Hey, Joe.
I'm on somebody else's computer and I'm having all kinds of problems with it. As far as, I mean, they got it right. You know, they got, the bottom line is they got it right. So I would say it's a coaching deal with the referee after the game. This isn't affecting anything. It might have a coach on the sideline very upset, but then when he turns it around, they're going to say, hey, the crew did their job. So I feel it's, you know, it's not a CMI, but it is a definite coaching thing as far as talking to the referee, and maybe even a couple added points to that AR that informed him, because he's doing his job. The bottom line is they got it right, you know.
All right, others. Joe, the other Joe has himself off of mute. Did you have something you wanted to say, Joe?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I would definitely up the score on the assistant referee. He's alert. He's you know, he has the confidence to say what he knows is correct. So I would give him more of a credit than the referee on that. So I pretty much agree with Joe Della Penna. That's it.
All right, Norman, I see you took yourself off mute. What would you like to add?
I would say the same thing. I think the DR should get a few more points, and a referee could take a few points off. You could always ask him how we get confused, or you write down the wrong number the first time, or whatever. But I think the DR scored a bit better than the referee.
Okay.
On this one.
Larry, do you have anything different to say or add?
Yes, was this gotten right because they had the appropriate pregame that covered this particular type incident, and they said chime in. So is that why we're right here?
No, that's also good as well. This is a good way to tie this back to the pregame and everything like that. In terms of what did we say, this is in many ways, actually, when we're thinking about scoring the referee, we should be docking the referee. So Adriana, if you want to click on to give the answer on this one. This should be a deduction of the field score for the referee. I admit there are differences across systems. There are other evaluating systems that will say that the referee should still get docked because he made the mistake. That's not what I feel we're trying to teach here in NYSOA. We're trying to teach this teamwork empowerment. We get it right as a team, we get it wrong as a team type of a situation. So for NYSOA assessments, other organizations can do other things. This should be a deduction on the field score, because at the end of the day, the crew got it right. But Larry, like I said, made a very good point in the sense of this should be a reduction, possibly in either match control, probably a match control in terms of this, but on teamwork. Is there possibly a way when we're talking about empowering the team where maybe this referee can show a little bit of positive stuff that maybe we can give him a little bit above average? Did this referee take steps to empower his crew through the pregame, through his behavior on the field, where the assistant referee felt comfortable giving him that information, and then the referee took it as well? So we should be seeing a deduction in terms of the match control area from the field score, but we should also consider maybe this individual deserves a thumbs up and a little bit above average on the teamwork side of it, because he did have that part of it as well. His teammate did have it. Any other thoughts on this or comments on this? All right, good. So if we go then to the next slide, everyone already knows the answer to this one, because the next question was, what about the assistant referee? And again, if we click then to the answer on this, it is, as everybody said, and I think everybody agrees, the assistant referee should be getting bumped up on the field score. So if we click to the answer on that one, Adriana, very quickly, since that field score should be increased because that assistant referee had the courage, and we want to reward that. We don't want to always be focusing on the negatives and everything people do wrong. When someone does good work, when someone makes that big decision and gets involved and corrects that, we need to increase that person's score as well. Not just punishing people, also giving that thumbs up, positive reinforcement. All right, so next situation, please. So now let's think about this as well. Some other sides to think about this. What's the highest mark in the field score you would consider giving an assistant referee who in a normal game with no other incidents or CMIs has 3 normal, easy, incorrect offside decisions? What do we think that score should be? Is an absolute maximum. Who hasn't spoken yet that would like to try this one out? Give an opinion here. Don Torrenti, how about Don? Can Don take himself? Yeah, hi Don, how are you?
Good, just finishing eating dinner after a field hockey game.
All right. I was finishing up my dinner right before we started too. So what do you think of this situation? What are you thinking in terms of these being normal, easy, incorrect offside decisions? What score are you thinking in this scenario?
I'll be honest, I'm tough on things like this. I'm not going any higher than 8.0.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it's a normal game. They're easy offside decisions, and the individual blows 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what about, so I saw Steve took himself off of mute. Steve, what do you think? Do you agree with Don, disagree with Don?
No, I agree that it's bad. And I don't think I would give above an 8.1.
Okay. Ben, what do you think?
I agree with the earlier comment. I would say it should be in the 7 someplace, because I would not want that AR on my game.
So this is then the question is, if this assistant referee has really good movement, really good positioning, really good everything else, really good assistant, but gets 3 normal, easy, and correct offside decisions, if we go to 7.9, we're saying that individual is that's an unacceptable performance. Do we want to say that this is absolutely an unacceptable performance? In your opinion, that's the case. You think that is?
Yes.
Ben is talking. Okay. Don, what do you think?
No, not unacceptable. This is a good teaching moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other thoughts, comments on this?
If he reacts this way in an easy game, what's going to happen in a game that gets tense? I mean, is this going to, where was his focus and why did this occur? I mean, can you identify something in your observation that maybe caused him to miss these? You know, just a lack of concentration, or what was the real reason? Out of position? You know, he may have good skill, but sometimes you're out of position. So I think those things all have to be considered.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point, Tom.
I would seriously worry about this individual. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are 3 easy, incorrect calls. I mean, let's face it, one of the major functions of an assistant referee is offside. Exactly. So it was said before, I wouldn't want this guy on my game. I'd have no confidence in that individual. None whatsoever. He would be more of a detriment to the game than anything else.
Joe, I see you're off mute now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with Tom on this one. Probably the referee is over his head in this position right now at this league level, and probably should be the referee, has direct connections with the assigner, and maybe the assigner should be let known, hey, we got a problem here, and it was nothing on this one, but maybe we ought to start reevaluating and retraining, because one I could see, three, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one normal, easy decision incorrect, to even be talking 8.0, 7.9 is really just, that's too harsh. We all have made mistakes. We've all been in that situation before. 2, 3, John, what do you think?
Well, Amanda, you kind of threw a wrench into the works when you took away all the coaching points that I would have asked about positioning and fitness. You said he was superb in all those other aspects, but he misses these 3 decisions. So there's a serious lack of something. Is it lack of concentration? Is he looking at the cheerleaders? We don't know. Is he thinking about his wife who's about to give birth? So there's something going on in this referee's mind that we need to find out about.
Right.
So, however, whatever those situations are, we need to coach him through those aspects of other life that will interfere with his concentration on this particular game. What it doesn't say if these 3 normal, easy, incorrect, offside decisions affected the game. Did he just miss them, or did they result in a goal, or did they result in a spa? We don't know.
Okay.
So,
well, it did not result in a goal because I said there were no CMIs.
Okay.
There was a spa. Whether it was a spa situation, a promising attack, that's a little bit different.
Right. So
but I said it was not a CMI.
But in the overall picture is that we need to coach this assistant referee, find out what's going on, what's causing him to lose his concentration, and tell him that this is an unacceptable performance for someone who has everything else going for him or her. This is an unacceptable performance in a match.
Okay, Norman, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I do. Even though they say they're normal, easy, and incorrect decisions, these could be flashpoints in these games, no matter how easy these games are. One of these things could turn that game into a turmoil. I'm pretty easy when I try to score somebody, but I do agree with the other gentleman. This is maybe in the 7s, down, just unacceptable, because that created a problem for the whole team. Those 3 things, but that's just me.
Okay. So in the interest of kind of moving this forward, Adriana, if you want to click on the next slide to kind of give the answer. Sorry. Ooh, sorry. No, we didn't give that. Go back. In this situation, there's very much a feel side to this. And what we want to remember is what's really, really important to all of this is the why. Why is this the case? I would really, really struggle with the idea of giving this person. So if an 8.4 is our standard, anything above an 8.1 would be really, really tough for me to stomach in terms of a score for this individual. But it comes down to us as coaches needing to figure out the why. So a lot of the stuff some of these people were saying, if this person, there's just something else maybe going on in their personal life and there was just extenuating circumstances, whatever, do we really want to kick these people when they're down? But if it's a situation where the person's totally out of position, we're going to deduct them for that. We're going to deduct them further. So it's really, I really think anything above an 8.1 is tough to justify, given that this is the assistant referee's primary responsibility. But I think we need more than we have in this to necessarily say it's going to be a 7.9 for just this.
Amanda?
And we want to keep deducting in terms of these things. So 8.1 to me is the absolute highest. I'm probably leaning towards an 8 if the referee is reasonably keeping up and reasonably in position. But if we're adding to this, there's a fitness problem, there's a positioning problem, movement problem, picking flowers on the side and everything. At that point in time, now we're really thinking this is just unacceptable, somewhere in the 7s. So just keep that in mind, because remember, versus if you have a young kid, and the other thing to also remember with regards to your tools is we do have those questions at the end about what level of game should this person be having, should this person be doing. And if you've got a young kid that maybe is on their first Division I game, a little bit blinded by the lights, do we really get anything from killing that kid's confidence when he's been working really hard, he's in good position? Maybe he's not quite ready for D1 this season, but maybe we work with him for a couple seasons and he's ready in a few. So we need to keep that balance of don't kick people just because. But I would be thinking in this situation, 8.1 max. But then those other situations with regards to positioning and movement, that may be docking you down fitness even further with regards to this. So
Amanda, I got one
who's
teaching
talking right
point.
now?
Art Jaspy.
Hi, Mr. Jaspy. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Just one short teaching point, but the reality is this was a performance, but it also he needs to understand his effect on the confidence of that crew from those teams. That as soon as the mistakes are made, the whole crew suffers from a confidence level from the teams themselves. That he needs to be aware of that. You don't want to bury him, but he needs to be aware of his mistakes cause confusion, then lack of confidence. So
No, good. All right. In the interest of, we've got a couple more scenarios. We're going to go to the next one. And Larry Morgan, since you're already off mute, you're going to give your opinion on this one to start off. So what's the highest mark you would consider giving an assistant referee in a normal game, no other incidents, that has 3 difficult incorrect offside decisions? And when I say difficult, I mean you got to go to the replay and your pause, freeze framing everything to break this down. What are you thinking for this individual score?
8.0.
8.0. So you think this individual with 3 difficult incorrect offside decisions should be at an 8.0 when the base is an 8.4?
I could squeeze it up, but that's my answer and I'm sticking to it.
All right. Your answer, you're sticking to it. Norman, you're off mute. What do you think?
I think so too. He still got them wrong, whether they're difficult or easy. This is your job as an AR. You make these things right. You know how close they are. But I maybe, I hate to say, maybe 8.1, 8 maybe.
Okay. Even after you had the one who got 3 difficult.
Well,
sorry, 3 normal, easy are an 8.1, 8.0. We're thinking that is a max for that individual.
Well, yeah, once again, these are flashpoints in a game, especially if these are this close. Anything can happen, and there's 3 of them in a row. I'm sure the players are going to be upset someplace down the road and going to give the referee a hard time, and it's going to raise the tempo of the game. And that's
okay, but let's be honest about this. If these are 3 difficult offside decisions, do the players on the field ever actually know if you're right or not?
No, yeah, absolutely right.
And are they going to be mad either way? No, stop. Are they going to be mad either way?
Probably not. Probably
not either way.
Probably not. But still, things can happen. But like I said, I would probably, difficult decisions. I could go 8.1, maybe 8.1.
Okay. I'm going to go to Don since he started off the last discussion. He's got his hand up.
I think we also have to look at how many difficult, correct offside decisions did he make?
Yeah. That's relevant as well.
have to factor that in as well.
Okay. Larry, what else do you want to add to your comments on this? Your initial thought?
So just as in the previous question, what is our coaching point to them? Is it that they don't haven't learned to master their dominant eye? Were they crowded on the touch line like some of these stadiums are? What's the basis for this incorrect decision?
Okay. That's very good. That we do also always need to be thinking about this in terms of what's the coaching points, what's the learning points, all those factors. So yes, also very good. Why did he get these wrong? And the other part to remember is a lot of times when we're looking at this, and when I'm saying difficult, I mean, we're talking freeze frame. I mean, you as the assessor have to pause and fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. That's how close we're talking when we're talking a difficult decision. Joe Della Penna, what do you think? You got your hand up.
I mean, we've been in situations like that. I think if the person in the middle is actually adjusting how their runs are because they've lost confidence in their AR, we got a problem. I still think, maybe 8.0, and because like you're saying, you're stopping frames. These aren't your normal plain old offsides. A guy can call it in the 15th row type calls. And I think there was a good point being made about the number of close calls there were in the game. I mean, there might have been 8 and he got 5 right. And these 3 were so tight that, that teams pulling a trap or, whatever. They got some real quick guy up front, maybe the 2-second rule. But I think as far as the coaching part of it, the little tricks of the trade on running a line, that going over some of those small tricks that might help the AR, he might never have heard that, keep your shoulder, keep your left foot on the runner and your right foot on an onside position. So this guy that's so fast doesn't outrun you, But yeah, it's all the game. It's all about the game, and I think we're judging one play or 3 particular plays, but there might have been 8 that game.
Yeah, no, there could have been more. That's a good point. I'm going to let David have the last comment on this. David's iPad, who has his hand up.
Well, Joe just mentioned what I was going to say. Consider team tactics. If you've got defenders pushing and you got the forwards, both guys are going at full speed, and you've got a fraction of a second to make that decision. And that's maybe that's the conversation we have with the AR after the game. Just the speed and team tactics are something to consider. Just saying.
Yeah, no, and we're going to, like I said, the June webinar, you all should be getting pumped for that. We don't have an exact date yet on how to coach assistant referees. Once we get that date set, we'll send out the save the date and everything, but it sounds like you guys are all pumped for that idea. But regardless, with regards to the situation, and this one, 8.0 is too harsh. Flat out point blank too harsh. Because if you remember, when we're talking about CMIs, when we're talking about whether or not something is a CMI, it has to be obvious. And I know this isn't a CMI, but it has to be obvious if we're going to deduct somebody for a CMI. If it's a freeze by freeze, and oh, look, actually, once I get to that exact kick point, I can see that there's a toe ahead. We do not dock assistant referees for CMI for that. If we need to pause it that much, it's that close, and we give that because we give them the benefit of the doubt. 3 difficult, incorrect offside decisions. We're not giving an 8.4 still because that's not because we need to distinguish performances. So it's not an 8.4. It's an 8.3, maybe an 8.2 depending on it, but an 8.0 is too harsh. We're not trying to kill these referees. And if you've got to go frame by frame by frame by frame to see that this guy was right or wrong, then we're not killing that referee. We're coaching that referee because, we've all been there. Some of those ones that are that close, that's somebody that we can work with if it's that close of a situation versus, the more obvious decisions, the one missing the easy normal. knocking that person to like an 8, even a 7.9. I was an assistant referee, as many of you know. If you get 3 easy decisions right, I'm not going to die on that hill saying that that's an acceptable performance, because that's your main job. I don't want to kill these kids. But if it's 3 difficult ones, we're not killing that person. 8.3 is a max. Anything below an 8.2 for this, I'd really be like, man, you're being mean. Unless there's other issues with regards to poor positioning, poor movement, those types of factors. So, all right. And then the last couple of situations, Adriana, if you want to click through into the next one. Now let's talk a little bit about a referee. What's the highest mark you would consider giving a referee? And so we all know, and Kevin Barcy had his hand up, but I cut it off, so he's going to start this one. So we all know the types of tackles we're talking about, those borderline caution situations. And this individual decides, instead of giving a caution, he's going to manage this. He's going to talk to the players, manage the situation, and not give the caution. And the game remains under control for the rest of the match. Kevin Barcy, what are you thinking you're going to do with this individual?
So depending on, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So depending on the, so if we're saying it's a borderline reckless, I would like to see the referee use his management skills to try and manage this. The best thing you're going to do is isolate the player. Make sure that you have a game face on that says that you're not happy with that type of tackle. Your body language as the referee should really help sell that you're not going to stand for that kind of those kinds of tackles. And certainly depending on the time of the match that it happens. If it happens real early, we certainly want to go in there with the least amount of ammunition, the smallest bullet, to manage it, versus going in there if it's the first hard tackle of the game and now you're given a caution. Now you're setting the bar way too high for what you're going to allow.
No, good. And so all of these management points, all these management techniques, like Kevin was saying, when it occurs in the game is relevant. So we want to make sure in the debrief, we're asking the referee these types of questions of what was your thought process on that challenge? And if that referee's reaction is, yeah, it was right on the edge, but everything had been very calm up until then. I thought I could manage this. I thought that the players would respond to this with that strong personality like Kevin was talking about, and the players do respond. Joe, you have your hand up. Morta,
Yeah.
What do you think?
What I want to say is you always look for alternatives before you start flashing the cards. And, once you start flashing the cards, you're minimizing the impact of future cards. So it's always good to be careful for that first one. The first one indicates the level of tolerance that you're going to have for the game. So I think that, this was a good move. This is good game management.
Okay, so what would you be thinking in terms of a score?
Oh, I would give him a high score. I mean, on this particular instance, I would give him an 8.4 for this particular instance.
8.4 is the base. You're just keeping them at the base for this?
Well, I'm not very familiar with the scoring. This is all new to me. Okay.
Okay. That's why we're having these. It's okay.
What's the range here? What's the range that I have? 7.9 to 8.4? What's
no, you can go above an 8.4. 8.4 is your base. So 8.5, 8.6, that means you're above average. 8.7, I mean, you can go up to, don't go up to 10. You can go up to 9. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would say 9 on this. Yeah, fine.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure I'd go that high. Let's go to Chris Bailey. She hasn't spoken in a little while. Chris, what are you thinking?
Well, my question would be immediately based on what we've been taught before. Was this a difficult match? Was this a normal match or a difficult match? We've got to know that to be able to determine. This one incident doesn't determine necessarily the overall score. Is that not correct? Correct. Okay. So if we're saying that this was a normal match and this was the incident we're basing it on, we are probably talking, I think, based on what you said, probably 8.6 to 8.8 is what you're going to justify. But if it's a difficult match, if it continues to be difficult, and that was a management point, then we can go to an 8.9. But it does appear to me that we need to determine
Mhm.
how difficult the match actually was to determine our overall score.
Right. No, and Chris is right. We do need to know the difficulty of the overall match to really get that baseline. Without that information, 8.4 is our kind of standard normal game, normal performance. Something like this, if the game stays normal, we're thinking 8.5, 8.6. Depending on it, one thing I want to emphasize, and because we only have 5 minutes left, we're going to move on to the next situation after this. One thing I want to emphasize is to make sure we're always giving referees credit for when they keep the game easy, when they keep the game normal. So maybe in this situation, the referee kept the game easy by doing this. He kept the game normal. We don't want to minimize that, because one thing I know I always hated was when assessors would be like, oh, it was an easy game. Oh, it's just a normal game, nothing special or whatever. And it's like, but didn't you see those management things that the referee did at this moment, this moment, this moment that kept it that way? So we need to keep our observation skills up and recognize that maybe in doing this, that referee kept the game normal in this situation. So we want to recognize that as well. So the last situation we're going to go to then is now, suppose again, same situation, because we all know those situations with regards to those borderline tackles. And this time I worded this very poorly. He chooses to management, and the game escalates from that situation. So that referee decides, I'm going to manage this, but doesn't come in with that strong personality that Kevin Barcy was talking about, doesn't necessarily come in with it, and the game explodes from that in terms of it becoming more difficult. Joe Della Penna, I see you're off mute. What are you thinking in this situation?
Well, I think a lot has to do with what the players want. And if it's escalating, you're going to have to turn it back around. So when you're saying the highest mark, I mean, at first, when you see it escalating, I'm going to say that you're going to knock them down. But then if you see by tightening it up or getting a little more stricter with the whistle, you see the players accepting the calls, then I think you can maybe add some points. So, it could actually become a positive if it turns around. But if it doesn't, you say, oh man, it's going to be one of those days. And that's where, your game level could be raised up to a tougher game, but your score might be lower. So you're 8-5, 8-6. It's all according how the big picture looks at, versus that one particular play.
Okay, I'm going to go to Tom Richardson. Tom, what are you thinking since you're off mute?
I have a question. If you look at the overall match as the whole match, and he has an incident such as this, and you say, okay, that's a -1 point off the score for right now. And then another thing happens, maybe it becomes a +1. So you have to take over the whole game and look, say, well, maybe I gave him 2 knockdowns and I gave him 4 pluses. So we got a net gain of 2. So he gets an 8-6. Is that what we're talking about in a way of scoring? Is that what you're looking at?
No, that's not how we're thinking about this. We're thinking about this with regards to this field score maximum type of a score. So what we're thinking about in this situation is the referee chooses to take a risk, and because of that, the game becomes more difficult. So if we think about some of the stuff like with what Joe was saying, like, yeah, maybe he gets it back, but he messed up. He didn't use that strong personality, that strong everything. And to me, in this situation, again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of shorten this a little. This referee should not be an 8.4. He should be an 8.2 or an 8.3. Even if he saves it, if he makes that mistake, the game escalates, but he gets it back, great, recognize that. But we're not going to reward a referee for making a game difficult by screwing up and then getting it back under control.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. That's what I was getting there.
Yeah, so that's how I want to think about this. And I don't say this with regards to, again, we're killing people. We're talking in that moment that referee chose to take a risk. It didn't pay off, but I got it back. So if that's the type of a situation, we're thinking 8.2, 8.3. We don't want to treat that one the same as somebody that handles that well and keeps everything calm. We want to distinguish performances. If the game further deteriorates and he doesn't get it back, now we're thinking God knows what. It could be
Sure.
at that point in time.
Okay.
But so just going off of what Joe said, that's the way to think about this is we want it to be this relative score of like, yeah, he got it back, but he lost at that moment because of that.
Sure.
So, all right, well, that's all we got right now. It's in terms of, it is 8:30 Central Time, which is my time zone. So I appreciate everybody coming on and everybody participating. Most of you guys were participating in everything. I'll get some more of you next time. Like I said, next month in May, we're going to have something on how to coach referee positioning. June, it's going to be coaching assistant referees, and we're not going to talk about offside exactly in terms of that situation. It's going to be a lot about how to coach movement, positioning, teamwork, all those other factors. If there's anything anybody else thinks of in terms of topics like that for assessors, so not things like recognizing careless, reckless, excessive force, Lance and Tori and Corey and their team do a great job with that. Please feel free to email me any other suggestions on things you're seeing and you are recognizing as a coach, like, boy, I'd like more thoughts and training on that, and we can see what we can do going forward. But
Amanda,
yes,
I have a question when you're done.
Go ahead.
Normally, around this time of year, we get notice about taking the annual test and we get notice about dues.
Mhm.
So since
Okay.
things are a little bit different now, where do we stand with the test and dues?
The dues, I think those have already been paid because the dues should be handled through your local chapter. With regards to the testing and everything, just keep your eyes out. That'll come from either Lance or Tori with regards to that. But we are still going to have all those factors, but I think dues should be paid already.
Okay.
Tom could probably comment more on that than me. Adriana, can you turn this off record now? Because we are going to